Hi, this is my very first After Effects tutorial and I'll just show you how to make this animation using a rig. So don't get overwhelmed with my workspace. I have arranged it this way so we can get a better illustrate of the viewport as well as the layer panel. So I've named and colored these layers so you all can understand better what's happening. But let me just show you real quick what exactly are these layers. So So these green layers are basically these strokes around this eye. So if I solo this, you can see these are strokes, and for the most part we won't need this. So let me just hide them. And this background layer as well, which is just a black background for the composition. So after turning on shy, what we have here are these layers. So the first one is just a star for the pupil. Second one is the eyelid, which is just an arc. The third one is eyelash, and basically these five layers are these eyelashes. And this red layer is this just a circle for the iris, and we probably won't touch it for this tutorial. And this last layer is this eye background, which will be the controller layer for this rig. So these out of the way, I'll just solo these eyelashes layer, and we'll try to connect these eyelashes to this eyelid. So before starting, let me just show you a really good trick. So what I used to do before is uh, to animate the part of this layer to go in contents which are not readily available on shortcuts. I open the contents of this layer, go into group 1, go into path, and then keyframe the path and then start animating. Or what I can do is double press U, keyframe the path, and then start animating, which is good, but not a very efficient way of animating multiple paths. So if I want to animate this, I have to select all these layers, then double press U, and then keyframe every path one by one. So what I can do is select this layer, go here, search for path, and there you have your path. Or an even better way to do this is select your layer, press Ctrl F, search path, and there you have your path. So in this case, what I can do is select these 6 layers, press Ctrl F, search path, we just keyframe these, and now I can start animating. So normally to animate this along with the eyelashes, what we do is select this layer, pull it down or wherever you want to animate it, and then arrange these eyelashes according to the eyelid. Which is not a very efficient way of doing this, because just in case you need to change it later, or if you don't think it's looking that good, you have to do it all over again. So a better way to do this is make a rig outfit. So to start rigging this, there's a script called create nulls from paths, which comes with your After Effects unless you have something older than 2018, which is highly unlikely. So to enable this, go into window, and you will have your create nulls from paths somewhere here. So I just disabled it. Let me just enable it again. So what we have to do first is connect these eyelashes to this eyelid. So to get started, first we will select this path and then click trace path, and what it will do is create this null which have these progress keyframes which travel along your path just like that. So let's delete one keyframe. So now if you move this progress, the null will travel along this path. So to start rigging, let's duplicate this null 5 times, and now we have each null for each eyelash. So let me just arrange these nulls over their respective eyelashes. Now let's move these nil to the position of their respective eyelash. For example, for this first eyelash, we'll keep this null at 0% and then parent this eyelash to this null. The second one, let's move this null a little bit forward, so something like 6.5%, and then parent the second eyelash to the second null. And let's do the same for the rest of these eyelashes. Now make sure that the anchor point of the eyelash is near the anchor point of their respective null. And now if you move this eyelid, these eyelashes will follow. So now we are done with this eyelid trick. Let's do the rest of the eye. And now we're going to set this eye background in such a way that if we move the path of this eye background, this eyelid path will follow. So it's going to attach with this overall path of eye background. And to do that, let's open the path of this eyelid once again and click points follow nulls. And once we do that, what it's going to do is create these three nulls which are connected to these 3 points of the eyelid path. And if we move one of these nulls, like if you move the center null, what it's going to do is move the center point of this path. And same goes for these 2 nulls. So for this trick, we only need this center null, this one. So I'm going to select these side nulls and then delete them. Now for the eye background, we're going to select the path and then click nulls follow points. And what it's going to do is create these 4 nulls for these 4 points of this eye background. But in this case, what it does is if we move the path of this shape, the nulls will follow these points instead. It's exactly what it says here, nulls follow points. So for this trick, we only need the top and the bottom null. So I'm going to delete these side nulls once again. And so in this case, if I parent this null which control this eyelid path to this upper null of this eye background shape, what this null going to do is follow this null of this eye path, which eventually is following this path. And so if I move this, the eyelid path will follow, just like that. But now if you see, if I move this part downwards, this iris circle is clipping out of this shape. So to prevent that, what I'm going to do is duplicate this eye background and maybe label this color something else like green, and I'm going to rename it to matte. And since this is a matte layer, I'm just gonna throw it on top of this layer panel. And we actually don't need this stroke, so I'm just gonna remove it. And now if I open the path of these 2 eye background layers, what I can do is pick with this path to this eye background layer. So what it's going to do is this eye background matte will sample the path from this main eye background layer. So now if I move the path of this eye background matte will move as well. And for the next part, now I can just disable this layer and then select this iris layer and put a set matte effect on it. And by the way, if you don't have this plugin, it's called FX Console. It's from Video Copilot. It's a free and really helpful plugin. It makes my workflow a lot faster, so I would suggest to install it. So let me search for set matte and add this effect. Now in layers, I'm going to select this eye background matte layer, and I'm just going to copy this effect and put it on the star as well, star pupil. So now if I move this path, the iris won't show outside this shape. How cool is that? So now this rigging is complete. Now this eye is pretty much rigged. But for those who want to stay and watch further, what we're going to do next is connect these strokes to this eye. So wherever we move this path, these strokes will follow as well. And to do that, let me just unhide these layers. And now let me just open the path of this. Now I'm just gonna keyframe. And select points follow nulls. And give it some time. There it is. And now as you can see, it created 4 nulls for each point of every stroke here. So these are a lot of nulls, but as I mentioned earlier, we don't really need the side nulls, so I'm just gonna look for them and delete them. So now every side null is selected, and I'm just gonna press delete. Now one of these null is for the upper point and the other null is for the lower point. First I'm gonna select the upper point. And I'm just gonna parent this to the upper null of this eye. So one more thing before parenting anything, just make sure that your playhead is at the start of this timeline so it doesn't get parented at the wrong time. So after parenting this, you can see if I move the path of this eye background, now these upper strokes are following. So let me do the same for these lower nulls. and parent this to the lower null of this eye. Perfect. So now if I move this lower null as well as this upper null, these strokes around this eye will follow. See? So let me undo that and keyframe the path at start. One in the middle. Let me just animate this. So that was it for this tutorial. I hope anyone who watched this learned something new, and I kind of enjoyed making this tutorial, so I might make more in future, I don't know. And thanks.